My friends, today I will tell you a story that is little known in history, but should never be forgotten, which happened on a cold December day in 1944. This story is, perhaps, the story of those difficult days your father or grandfather lived through. The story of a young 22-year-old American soldier named James Miller. James came from a small town in Ohio, and like thousands of young Americans in those years, he volunteered to defend his country. But none of them were prepared for the reality they would face.
Mother, don't worry. I'll come home when this war is over. Tell Marie I think about her all the time.
This was part of the last letter James wrote to his mother. The date was December 15th, 1944. The setting was the freezing forests of Belgium, those terrible days when the Battle of the Bulge began. Well, have you ever asked yourself this question? What enables a person to maintain hope even in the most difficult times? James Miller's story provides the answer to this very question. It was just 6 o'clock on the morning of December 16. James and his friends were on duty guarding a small bridge in the Ardennes forest. The cold was so intense that their breath steamed and their hands clung to their weapons.
James, I don't know how we're going to survive this cold. I can't even feel my fingers.
Frank, think about the letter Marie wrote to me. She said, "As long as you're there, everything is safe here. Our being here has a meaning."
But my friends, none of them could have guessed that morning that just a few kilometers away, tens of thousands of German soldiers were preparing for a final assault.
Children, come here. There's a message on the radio. The enemy has launched a massive attack. We will hold our positions.
James immediately noticed the concern in Sergeant Rodriguez's voice. A situation that even a 15-year veteran would be nervous about meant it was serious. James immediately noticed the concern in Sergeant Rodriguez's voice. A situation that even a 15-year veteran would be nervous about meant it was serious.
My son, the numbers are not important. What is important is that we will not pass this place.
And that moment came, my friends. At 08:30, the first tank sounds were heard from deep in the forest. James took Marie's photo out of his pocket and looked at it one last time. He started reading the letter.
Dear James, it's snowing here, just like that evening last year when we walked together. I'm thinking of you, and I know you're thinking of me too. Be safe, my love.
The first German tank appeared 500 meters from the bridge. James's heart was beating so fast he thought his chest would explode. But the gun in his hand was intact, and his friends beside him were intact.
Frank, are you ready?
I am even ready to die with you, my brother.
And the war began, my friends. James found himself in the middle of an inferno he had never seen in his life. Bullets whistling past his ears and his friends screaming,
James! Come to the left! The tank is coming!
At that moment, James saw something that would change him forever. A wounded German soldier was trying to hide under a bridge. Even though he was the enemy, he had a family James's age, perhaps waiting for him at home.
If mir.
At that moment, James came face to face with the greatest truth of war. The one facing him was not the enemy, but another young man just like him, afraid and homesick.
Guter Macholai, bitte. Ich hab Familie.
James lowered his gun and approached the wounded soldier. Frank screamed,
James, what are you doing? He's the enemy.
No, Frank. He's a child of someone like us.
James carried that German soldier to safety and dressed his wound. The two young men looked at each other without speaking. Both men understood that war had made them enemies, but humanity had made them brothers. The Battle of the Bulge lasted 3 weeks. James defended that bridge and came home. But most importantly, he came home with his humanity intact.
Welcome, my love. There is a completely different light in your eyes.
Marie, the most important thing I learned from the war was this. Even our enemies are human. Like us.
My friends, James Miller passed away in 2018 at the age of 96. But the friendship he formed with that German soldier lasted a lifetime. They corresponded by letter after the war ended. So I ask you this: how many of our enemies do we really know today? James's story shows us that we can maintain our humanity even in the darkest of moments. Does this story sound familiar to you? Maybe your grandfather lived through similar stories. Share them in the comments. And if this story resonates with you, talk to your elders. They have stories to tell too.